revealed by the NBA recently. And this team, of course, is illustrated with tons of great talent. I kind of want to make this big so everybody can kind of see who is on this roster. So I will read kind of the names really quick of these players. So the 75th anniversary team consists of these players. We got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, we got Ray Allen, Giannis, Carmelo, Anthony, Nate Archibald, Paul Arzin, Charles Barkley, Rick Barry, Elgin Baylor, David Bing, Larry Bird, Kobe, Wilt, Bob Cousy, David Cohen's, Billy Cunningham, Steph Curry, Anthony Davis, Dave DeBoucherie, Clyde Drexler, Tim Duncan, Kevin Durant, Julius Erving, Patrick Ewing, Walt Frazier, Kevin Garnett, George Gerving, Hal Greer, James Harden, Havlicek, Elvin Hayes, Allen Iverson, LeBron, Magic, Sam Jones, Michael Jordan, Jason Kidd, Kawhi Leonard, Damian Lillard, Jerry Lucas. I know this list is very long. Carl Malone, Moses Malone, Pete Maravich, Bob McAdoo, Kevin McHale, George Mikan, Reggie Miller, Earl Monroe, Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki, Shaquille O'Neal, Hakeem Olajuwon, Robert Parrish, Chris Paul, Gary Payton, Bob Pettit, Paul Pierce, Scottie Pippen, Willis Reed, Oscar Robinson, David Robinson, Dennis Rodman, Bill Russell, Dolph Skies, Bill Sharman, John Stockton, Isaiah Thomas, Nate Thurman, Wes Unhill, Dwayne Wade, Bill Walton, Jerry West, Russell Westbrook, Lane Wilkins, Dominic Wilkins, and James Worthy. Whew, that is a mouthful.
That's a lot of lists.
That's a lot of names. I do apologize, people, for reading a list that you probably could see on the screen, but I kind of wanted to say the names so everybody knows who is on this list. So, Tyrese, this list consists of a lot of, these 75 obviously voted by, I believe, the media and I think former players, I believe. So this list consists of 75 players, obviously just reading 75th anniversary team. That's the gimmick. Was there any surprises on that list that you thought, man, how did that person make the list? Was there anybody like that was on your mind?
Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis?
Yeah. How does he make it before Klay Thompson? I didn't understand that, but then again, it's like I understand the market he's in.
Mm-hmm.
He won a championship. It's equivalent to Klay's 3 championships he won. His one since he's in LA, but I think he shouldn't have been on that list just because he hasn't really. I don't know, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's a solid player. Don't get me wrong, but he's not like he hasn't done more than Klay has, to be honest. Like in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. What did
like
you make? Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say as much as like a scorer and someone who they can count on because he's disappeared. Last year's playoffs, and the only time they really won it was in the bubble. Yeah. So I think that was something that stood out to me on the list.
One player that I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit. Sorry, Tyrese, to cut you off.
No, you're good.
One player I kind of want to talk about more so, like, do you think, like, we're Boston fans, so I'm going to obviously kind of go more so the Boston side of things, but do you think that, like, guys like Paul Pierce or Kevin Garnett should have been on this list?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't even see how James Harden's on the list. Like, who made this list? Like, I don't get it, man. Like, some of these guys never even been to well, he's been to a finals, but he was younger. He's never been battle tested, like, in the finals, like a couple times or so on. Like he's a good player, but he doesn't deserve to be on 75. Like at least I would get KG on there and Paul. Both, honestly.
Yeah,
I'll even throw Rondo on there before
Rondo. Oh my goodness, Rondo.
Yeah. He's won a chip. He's been the key guy on a team. He's won a championship with the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
So why not him?
I think
we're just gonna be throwing names on there, some of them.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people want to make fun of like the old white dudes. Basically, that's kind of the trope that a lot of people, just because they played in an era where like the dribbling was just absolutely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And of course people love to compare it to today's game, but I just feel like that's kind of you just can't. And I know that people love to do that. But the one thing that I kind of am interested to see, like who was not on this list, is Dwight Howard. Like, I think to me, I think Dwight Howard should have made this list, and whether that's over Anthony Davis or whoever else was on this list, like I think Dwight Howard in his prime was absolutely a beast, and people prepared for him like no other when when it was the Eastern Conference, when it was just the Celtics and the Magic battling it out. And we had some great rivalries with that Magic team, and I just think that he was really that dominant. I think what sucks is that he wasn't particularly dominant for so long that a lot of people kind of like brush it to the wayside.
Yeah.
And I think that he really does deserve to be on this list. Like he's good enough, I think, to be top 75.
Oh yeah, of course. There's a lot of guys who are off this list that are just like, what? Who made it? Jason Kidd was solid, but he wasn't like anything great
Hmm.
like Dwight Howard was. I mean, Dwight Howard won a ring now, so um, yeah, I didn't get some of this list, man. Like, it's just kind of like, what the hell? But
Yeah.
you know,
Um, some other names that I think kind of got. What about Tracy McGrady? I know Tracy McGrady um, is one player I feel like in the NBA is the most is probably one of the most polarizing players. I feel like because
hmm
in one spectrum people are like the amazing plays, everything that he does, like everybody is like. Wow, Tracy McGrady, how is he not like, especially when the Hall of Fame stuff is coming up. Like, how is he not a Hall of
yeah,
Famer? And then there's the other side that is kind of like, well, he got bounced out in the first round every time in the playoffs and never really made it
yeah.
to the finals. And I think a lot of people kind of hold that weight. Like, do you think a guy like Tracy McGrady, should he have made made that team, the 75th anniversary team, or do you think it was okay kind of leaving him off?
T-Mac, yeah, I would have T-Mac on there. I mean, if it wasn't for his injury, he would have been, he would have probably won a couple rings, man. Like, he was talented, but yeah, man, I just don't like this list. Like, I didn't make too much of it. I read a lot of the names. I was just like, oh God, like I stopped reading what some of the people on there, like Harden and some of the others,
Hmm.
but hey, you know, well, it's kind of like scratch your head, like who the hell is making this decisions? Like, is this model based? Like, how is this determined? Like, are they doing analytics on like position wise, and then they're plugging it in? Like, I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean this, and Sean, you said I think that one third of the old players in the black and white days could be removed, but are on there out of respect. And I think that's really it. We can talk about like guys like you know like your Sam Jones. You can talk about guys like who else is on here that like George Mikan, obviously the originator of the Mikan drill. You can talk about like David Cohen's and those type of guys, David Bing or Dave Bing. Like we can, talk about those guys and be like, well, they played in an era where it was like totally different. But I do think that they should be on the list just due to the fact of like historical reference for those players. They really
Oh yeah, they put in a lot
they
of work. Yeah,
revolutionized like the way the game is played. Not saying that, they went from like, dribbling one hand, looking down, you know, right hand the whole time, right down the court. But what I do think that is cool about this is that you obviously need to pay respects to the older players. One person that was not
yeah.
on this list that's going to draw a lot of controversy just due to the fact that what he's going through right now with not being with the Brooklyn Nets currently is of course Kyrie Irving. That's kind of the biggest name that I think a lot of people as well have not saw on this list. I know Sean is a big proponent in that guy not getting on the list. But when it comes to a guy like Kyrie Irving, Tyrese, do you think it's fair or not fair to leave him off the list?
What was that? I'm sorry, it cut out.
Um, do you believe that it was fair or not fair to leave Kyrie Irving off the list?
Uh, I don't know, man, because some of these guys still have a lot of time left in their career. I feel like this list should have been the players like who are like, okay, we know that person is gonna be a top 75 player, like, for the 75th
Hmm.
anniversary, like LeBron, so on, Curry. Um, is Steph Curry on that list?
Steph Curry is on this list.
Okay, yeah, so like him, they don't have Clay on there. They don't have do they have Kawhi?
Kawhi Leonard is on this list.
Okay, yeah. So they have all the I don't know. I just think yeah, Kyrie Irving could have been on that list. He could have been on there. He could have been on there before James Harden. James Harden hasn't won a ring. James Harden hasn't even been in the finals. Well, he has, but that's they didn't win it, but that was when they were younger and that was like a luck thing in a way, but they lost it. But Kyrie Irving's, if it wasn't for his injury, he would have been to what, 4 consecutive finals.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing too with Kyrie. I know I really do think that I think his decisions about the whatever the vaccination status that he has, I really think that did play a part into this.
You think so? The
I think
politics?
I think it's a little bit of politicking. Like again, like I don't agree with Kyrie in some sense for some of his things, but I think to deny him as like someone that is a generational talent type of player to not be on this list, like not saying that
Yeah.
not saying he's going to be like really high on this list and be like, yeah, he should be in the top 10 of the century. It would be
No, no,
fun.
no, no. But
It
he
would be
deserves to be top 60, 65, 70. Like,
yeah, towards the tail end.
on
It'd be
there
fun to
before
actually
T-Mac.
it'd actually be fun to actually rank these players and not just be like, well, 75. We'll just get 75 guys.
Right. Yeah.
But and I
And two,
know.
you have to remember.
Oh no,
Oh,
the only thing I was gonna say is like I know Sean's not gonna agree with what I said, but I said what I said.
yeah, man. And not to get too like political or anything, but like the league is kind of like democratic, like they want everybody to get vaccinated. Like I have nothing against it, not trying to get political, but I just found that strange how he's not on it.
Hmm.
He's won, he's been to 3 consecutive finals. Like I'm not a big fan of him, but come on, like he deserves
Yeah,
to be on there, man.
yeah. I mean, I'm not a fan of him either after what he did to our Celtics roster and organization.
Exactly.
I actually
But
had.
then again, like you said,
I was just gonna have some inside information on that. On
you
that
have some
team.
inside information.
More so, like kind of what was going on when he was there. Um,
What was going on?
kind of like what I think Sean's actually being a good teammate is prerequisite for being an all-time great, in my opinion. And Sean, I agree with you. Kyrie is not that. And that's actually what I was going to talk about. I have someone that is friends with one of the players,
Hmm.
a French player, and he would always text one of my coworkers who works with me now at the high school. And
Yeah.
he would just talk about like the fact that he was like one of the most like unapproachable players because of the fact that he was basically like he's a huge celebrity, right? A lot of people want to get to know him, want to be around him,
Right.
and I think he let that get into his head a little bit. And then I just feel like he kind of went the Kanye route and just kind of went with doing different
Yeah.
things and other things like that, and that was
You
kind of
hit
what
it on the
my friend
head.
was talking about with his friend that was on the team at that time when Kyrie was there. And it just kind of led to like some like really tension filled practices, led to some just kind of like it's not very fun team environment. And Sean, like, and I don't know if I kind of talked about it yet with you in terms of like what you just said in the chat, but
And
yes, being a good
and
teammate is a requisite for it.
yeah, and to go back to that, like when he was with us, like I don't know if you recall, but in a lot of the interviews, he would always say, "Yeah, these young guys, like they're not experienced." Like he was just like shooting them down, and like they're more talented than him. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like he would say, "Oh, these guys are young, like they don't know what it takes, and I'm here to provide that." Like, he has a personality disorder, I say.
Yeah.
Um, and Jalen Brown, he has a very competitiveness to him. I actually know someone who was at like one of the like I forgot what he said he did, but he was at Cal Berkeley for something, and he met Jaylen Brown, and he was like, Jaylen Brown is kind of like he's an asshole. Like he thinks he knows it all. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of how Kyrie Irving is. I don't know if you call him and Kyrie Irving used to always get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they would always be battling in practice and like talking trash, like you know what I'm saying? And I
Yeah.
think those two strong personalities didn't match. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And then you got other guys just looking like, oh, what the hell's going on? You know what I'm saying? And you got Smart, who's a guy who's just like that. You know what I'm saying? Who's competitive, who tries to act like an alpha. You know what I'm saying? And then you got it just didn't work. But Kyrie has a personality disorder. One minute he's very handy, and then the next minute he's he acts like an asshole. Um,
Definitely.
he like you said, like he was going through a Kanye phase, man. Like I remember
Still
he
is,
had
to be
like
honest.
gloves. He had like gloves like when he was with us, like the
Sage.
top of the gloves were they were cut off.
Then you
Like
have
he
the
was going
sage
through
as
a whole
well, just
phase, man. Yeah,
just
yeah,
trying
the
to like.
sage burning it. Yeah, man. Like that's when that Uncle Drew movie like dropped and he was like recording. He just changed, dude. Like he thought he was just like someone who was gonna be a Michael Jordan type, like
Mm-hmm.
movie, won a championship, playing for us. Like he thought now it's just like nobody thinks about him, and I think that's getting to him too, as well as the vaccine. I think he would have got the vaccine honestly if he was still with LeBron James and on the Cavs. He would have got that damn vaccine.
Yeah,
He
because
would have
LeBron would
got
have
it.
been like, LeBron would have been like, "Yo, you're gonna get this. You're gonna shut up. You're gonna get this vaccine,
Yep.
and you're gonna help
Yep.
us win a championship." And
But you see him and KD. A lot of people don't know this. Before he went, him and KD used to go to the same church in New York. You see what I'm saying? So they
mm-hmm.
already got like some type of connection. They already
Yeah,
have some type of connection in New York, and plus he's from Jersey. So Jersey's right across the river. You get what I'm saying?
yeah,
And KD's from DC, so that's right there. And they're kind of have like the same type of personality, but KD, he's more of he has more of a heart for people.
mm-hmm.
Kyrie doesn't give a damn. Like yeah,
Yeah,
he bought George Floyd's mom a house or whatever, but Kyrie also does stuff to get in the news. Great
yeah,
stuff to get attention off of him. So I just think he just thinks that vaccine, and then now all the attention KD and James are getting, I think it's getting to his head, man. But if he
yeah,
was with LeBron, oh my God, he would have got both of them. Everything would have been great. He would have been playing, but he's cool with KD. He's cool with Steve. Steve's not that type of coach who's going to call him out. He's
mm-hmm.
more of a yes man type of head coach. And I don't think that's good for the Nets.
Yeah,
Um, because he's not really like a strong-headed D'Antoni who are yell at your ass and bench you.
yeah, yeah.
So
And I think kind of just to also kind of lean or talk a little bit more about this. I agree 100%, Tyrese. It's like, I think the antics that he does, I think the fact that he's unvaccinated, I think that all does play a part into why he's not on this list. And whether it's right or
yep,
wrong, that's the way it is. And I think that we'll see what happens with the rest of his career if he doesn't retire, or what happens with that the whole
be,
ordeal. Um,
yeah.
it'll
Because
be
if you
interesting.
listen to him, oh, go ahead.
No, 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 go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say because if you listen to him on his IG live, he goes, "Yeah, I'm not gonna let some vaccine like retire me." So it sounds like he's doing this for attention because it's like if you're not gonna let some vaccine stop you from playing and getting your money, why haven't you gotten it?
Hmm.
So it looks like to me he's trying to get attention.
Yeah,
He's an attention seeker. Like he loves attention. He might seem like he doesn't, and like he comes off nonchalant and like try to
hmm,
throw people off, and with his sniffles, how he used to do with us when he used to be interviewed, like his whole body, like language, it just comes off as like I'm the shit, and like you guys are second fiddle. But now in Brooklyn, it's not like that. Now
yeah,
they have an MVP. Now they have a champion who's a two-time champion and an MVP. So it's like you're the third option. He doesn't want to be a third option. He wants to be at the worst a second option. Now he was, which is him and KD.
yeah,
Now that's not there. You see what I'm saying? So I just didn't understand that when I watched that live. I'm not gonna let no vaccine stop me from playing, but you haven't gotten the vaccine. Does that make any sense to you?
I mean, I
So
think I
why you
agree.
out?
I think I do agree. I mean, like at the end of the day, I think with whatever is going on in Kyrie's mind, he's kind of one of those guys that, like you said, just goes to the beat of his own drum, doesn't really listen, wants to
Yep.
be different just to be different. Not really. It's because and to you, like I don't want to like assume things about people in that aspect, but
Yeah.
I do think that with him saying that, it does kind of lead to the perception of what people are saying. Sean, you said all people want to talk about with Kyrie is that he has a ring and he should be in the top 20-75. Do you really believe that if Dame played with LeBron, he wouldn't have multiple rings? I mean, that might be the case as well. I still think Kyrie is really good. I think to say that he's not is as a different story. But what I will say is that I don't think that Kyrie Irving is a number one. I don't think he ever has
No.
and won't ever
No
will be.
way. To be honest, Kyrie's not even number 2.
I think he's a number 2, and you can see like when he's efficient, it's when he's not being the ball handler, like being kind of the guy that gets it so he can get off the catch and then go and attack and do his thing with his dribble moves. Like that to me is like what I see more so from Kyrie Irving. And Sean, you do make a good argument and a good point. Let's say this was a different player, like you said, Dame Lillard. We couldn't even talk about. I can't even think of what other guards that could be like during that time, but you do make a great and interesting point, Sean. Like maybe Dame is in that spot, and I don't think is Lillard in here. I think he was in here. Dame is already in here. I mean, I think what it speaks to itself is that I think Dame, personifies and overcomes the struggle of not having a championship yet in Portland, or not even having a championship at all, whatever team he's on. So I think that's really cool to see from Dame. That even though he doesn't have that ring, he's still able to be in that, talked about category. But other than that, Tyrese, is there any other snubs you can think of for this list?
Let me think. Who else? Let me try to think.
Like maybe what about like a Dikembe Mutombo? Do you think he got snubbed, or do you think it's fine that he didn't get in there?
I mean, there's a lot of guys who are. See, that's the tough thing. Like, there's a lot of guys who are talented, but it's like, do they belong on that list? Because it honestly comes down to like, I don't know how they did this though. Like, I don't know if they ran this through like a, we're gonna get 300 executives or whatever it is throughout the league, and we're gonna see who they want on the 75. Because some of these players, they don't deserve to be on there, in my opinion.
Dwight Howard snubbed. Sean, we did talk actually about Dwight Howard. I said he did get snubbed. I said, not sure we're at what point in this video that I said he got snubbed, but yes, he did.
Klay Thompson got snubbed.
Klay Thompson. I think Klay Thompson. I think another player that got snubbed, and I know this is going to be one that is crazy for me to even say because I'm not even old enough to remember this player, but I do remember watching the highlights. Bernard King. I think he was a guy from that 70s era where he won the championship with the Knicks, I believe. And let me double check myself to fact check myself. But I do believe that Bernard King got snubbed. He was probably one of the best scorers in that time era. Yes, he did play in the 70s. I felt like he should have been on this list. And I know that's crazy to say because it's a player from the 70s, but he did bring the championship to, especially if you're going to put Patrick Ewing on this list. I feel like you have to put Bernard King on this list. Just a great scorer, great, Hall of Fame Knicks player. I just think that the fact, and I know Pilo, if you're on here, I called him by his freaking rapper name, but P, I think Pete would agree with me with that one. It's like, I think Bernard King does deserve to be on this list. Sean, you said Chris Bosh. Was he snubbed?
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's a good one because a lot of people talked about him. I think personally, I want to say no. And the reason why I say no, and maybe Tyrese will disagree with me, the reason why I say no, even though he was a very important Heats player and is probably one of the most underrated players to talk about for that team, I think if he was individually on his own team, I think he would have made the list because I think like his game really translates to what the NBA is now currently with its bigs. Um, and I just think the fact that he didn't really play, he was the number 3 on his team because obviously Dwayne Wade and LeBron James were going to be 1 and 2 no matter what order it was in. Chris Bosh, I felt like just was always going to get the short end of the stick, and I just feel like the stats and kind of like the All NBAs didn't really match what he really should have been if he was like on his own team or if he was even like a number 2 on the team. What do you say, you Tyrese?
I think he deserves to be on there just because he's won 2 rings and he was really good with the Raptors. He was one of the best power forwards in the game. You know, if it wasn't for his injury, he would have won another ring with LeBron. I think he would have went to Cleveland before Kevin Love, but you know that injury it screwed with him. Then I think didn't he have like a heart condition or something like that too?
He had a heart condition because he was going to sign with the Houston Rockets and go back home because he is from the Houston area.
Yeah.
But the problem was that because of the heart condition, he wasn't able to play on that team. And I think that's where, unfortunately, which sucks to say, I think that's where like he probably didn't make the team was for that reason. And I think that he was able to have those extra years of playing, he would have definitely been on this list because this Houston Rockets team that they were building with like James Harden, I feel like him and Harden could have had a great 1-2 combination with each other. And I think it would have been a lethal combination, knowing the fact that those guys really play really well together. I think what their games would have complemented well with each other as kind of like a stretch big and not playing with the guy like Clint Capella. Even though they did develop Clint Capella, I think that playing with Chris Bosh would have definitely helped their team a lot more. Yeah, man, it sucks because I really do like Chris Bosh. I like him as a human. I like him as a player. It just sucks to see that he didn't get recognized for this team when, you know, he did really make a huge impact with that Heat culture. But I think...
Do you think...
No, go ahead.
Do you think... No, I was just going to say, a little off topic, but do you think Reggie Miller deserved to be on there?
You don't think Reggie Miller should have?
Not really. Honestly, I think there's some players, man, like Dwight Howard, I think you could put in front of him.
Yeah.
Dwight Howard, Klay Thompson.
I just
Tracy
feel like
McGrady.
I feel like with him, it's just the lure. I think it's the lure of like his career of like playing, you know, 3-time All NBA, 5-time NBA All Star. I think with Reggie, it's the lure of him and like what he did in that Knicks series where he scored like those points in 7 seconds. Like I just think that that's kind of where it's at with him. And Sean, I'll go to your topic in just a second. But like with the guy like Reggie Miller, I think it's just the lure of what he did, like, you know, his reputation around the league. I think that
Didn't
really...
Tracy McGrady do something similar though? What, Houston?
Yeah, but I think with him, it's just the lure of the 90s, right? You know, 90s basketball will always have that lure over everybody. Apparently young or old, just because of the documentary The Last Dance. But I think that's the reason why, because I agree with you, Tyrese. It's like he's borderline like maybe shouldn't be on this list. It's like,
yeah,
I just think that lure of being in a rivalry with Michael Jordan and, you know, battling it with Michael Jordan kind of puts him on the list just instantly just because of that. Instead of, because I think like if Reggie would have played in today's NBA, he would have been perfect. Like that he would have like, he probably would have been the perfect player for this era. Unfortunately, I think he was just born in the wrong era. Just like not to go off topic, but I think Marvin Bagley is in the same boat. Like just born in the wrong era. Jahlil Okafor as well. And just there is some guys that are born in the wrong era because, you know, we could, if Jahlil Okafor and Marvin Bagley were back in like the early 90s, 2000s, early 2000s, those guys might even be on this list. But it's one of those things. I look at it and I do agree to some extent. I think it's just the fact of when it comes to Reggie Miller, it's always the lore of the 90s with anything, with any of those type of players, like whether it's like Charles Barkley, whether it's like Patrick Ewing and all those guys. I think it's always the lore of the 90s to me when I see those guys on the list.
Yeah, I think so too. I just think, you know, like you go back to what you said, like he did so much, you know, in that time of his era to where it's kind of like, we got to put him there,
Hmm.
But I don't think he fits there. I don't think he should be on the list, personally.
Yeah. And then Sean, go back to your comment. Any messages for the Zoomers saying Ray Allen shouldn't have made it over Kyrie? Look, man, I again, another like revisionist history with Ray Allen. I just think that a lot of people don't really remember like the Ray Allen that could like dunk, could dribble. Jesus Shuttlesworth Ray Allen, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Like the all around triple threat package.
Yeah.
And he was a really solid player. Or like he was a really freaking good player, in UConn, and then went to the Bucks and played really well. Then went to the Sonics and did his thing. But unfortunately for Ray Allen, I think the thing that sucks is the fact that his teams were never that good until he became kind of known as the 3-point shooter in Boston and in Miami. And I just feel like that's where a lot of people just remember Ray Allen from, is just those times. When really, if we remember Ray Allen, he was that dude in the 90s, like the mid to late 90s and to the 2000s. Like he was that good. I just think people forget about how good he really was. Even now, currently, I think a lot of people forget about Ray Allen when they make lists and things like that. But he was really good. Again, one of my favorite players to watch and play. And I do think that he, I'm glad he made the list. I always had a hunch he would, just because he is 3-point leader in 3 points. And I just feel like he was always going to make the list.
Yeah, that's okay. I see. Yeah, that's fair.
But let us know, everybody, in the comment section down below. What do you guys make of this list? Of course, 75 players. Not everybody can make this list. Who was your biggest snub? Who was your biggest... Who should not be on this list? And let us know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think? Again, it is going to be a fun and interesting list to talk about and continuing to talk about from years and years to come. So like I said, let us know in the comment section down below.